Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin McCarthy and Republicans, House Republicans, Trump Republicans passed a debt limit bill, and there's a showdown now with Biden and Democrats. Here's how we got to this point. In 2019, we had record low poverty. In 2019, inflation was around 2%. In 2019, we had record highs in household median income. In 2019, Trump was presiding over a fantastic economy. The working class, people who were struggling, people who perhaps are struggling today to make a living, were doing much better under Trump. Much better. Every demographic group was reaching close to or reaching highs, records in household median income. And we had real wages were up. Okay, real wages are down now. Inflation is at 6 to 8%, far more for energy, rent, and food. Okay, food inflation is through the roof. You have bank runs now. We're seeing more banks run on more banks now. There were toilet paper runs in Trump's last year in office, which we'll get to in a second. The people who shut down economic activity did so not because of Trump's policies. That was a choice, and we'll get to that in a second. But we went from 2019 to record highs in household median income, record low in poverty, 2% inflation, and real wages up under Trump. In fact, Bernie Sanders had the audacity to say, and it's really interesting. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I chose Trump 2 years ago, and I'm choosing him again a year and a half from now or so, because we had record low poverty with Trump, 2% inflation, real wages up, and record highs in household median income in 2019. People were doing better. The economy was better. Foreign policy was much better. That's another main reason. He brought Americans home, which is all the things I thought Bernie Sanders would do. But Bernie Sanders is a political animal, definitely part of a very corrupt system. Props it up. He gets cheated by the Democratic Party in 2016 with DNC emails, forcing Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign. And you have a situation where he's now part of the same corrupt system. You're talking about the working class and poverty. It's the same racket that Elizabeth Warren and AOC. It's just a racket. Because if they cared about working people, if they cared about the middle class, if they cared about reducing poverty, we had that with Trump. Now what happened? Why is the debt ceiling or the debt limit that McCarthy passed important? Well, inflation is a terrible, terrible problem. Inflation brings down countries and governments. Inflation is terrible. When McCarthy says, well, we're going to cut the student loan forgiveness program, and you have morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats saying, that's terrible, oh my God. What you're doing is you might possibly be adding to inflation while eliminating student loan debt. Yeah, that's a good thing, but at the same time, if you're going into a university, you are taking the loan out yourself because you want, a degree. Or again, that's a decision. Like, it took me a long time to pay my student loans. I get it. Nobody likes their student loans. The problem, however, is that if you are graduating from a university and there's no work now, or if the cost of living at this moment right now, because of Democratic Party policies, because of media with CNN and a counter of those who've lost their lives, like a stock ticker on the bottom of the screen, the sensationalized coverage of a very important issue 2 years ago, the completely apoplectic, short-sighted, destructive economic policies of pumping $10 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus. I mean, what was Trump supposed to do? When they say, well, it was Trump's last year. Trump, he was a $3 trillion budget deficit. Okay, well, he had a $984 billion budget deficit under Trump in 2019, $779 billion deficit in 2018. But the economy was growing. And the economy was growing. Inflation was at like 2%. We had real wages up. Now we have real wages down. The federal deficit was $1.4 trillion in 2022, 2 years after, you know what? And we have real wages down. We have poverty going up. And we have a homeless issue in every major city in this country under Biden. So when Biden, when you have these like our beloved dear leader slurring speech and murder Republicans and extreme murder Republicans, when he's kind of like trying to just blame the really bad, horrible Trump Republicans for everything, the reality is that under Trump, people were doing better in terms of the economy. It's not even up for debate, really. And at a certain point, you just can't keep spending. Because when you go and pump $10 trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus, and then the stupid talking point from very highly educated liberal Democrats is like, well, Trump bailed out Wall Street. He bailed out Wall Street. It's like, well, lending would dry up. You shut down Democrats and media and bureaucrats, specific bureaucrats like that Rand Paul opposes and RFK Jr. When they pushed to shut down economic activity, what took place was the deficit not only went to $3 trillion, but in terms of fiscal and monetary stimulus, so you need fiscal stimulus because you didn't allow people to work. Blue state governors gleefully didn't allow people to work. Okay? That was a choice. You didn't have to do that. Then what are you going to do? Have them starve? What is Trump supposed to do? Veto a bill to have just people starve? Then you have AOC, eviction moratorium. It's like, well, but they can't, you've stopped them from working. This is the racket that Elizabeth Warren and this is the racket that Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and AOC run. And I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. And the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I understand. It's a racket. They don't really care about the working class or impoverished people. They care about keeping the poverty there, giving student loan debt. It's done. Well, then what happened? Are there job opportunities? Is the cost of living going up or down in Biden's America? And so there might be job opportunities, but that's because we had record low unemployment with Trump in 2019 and beginning of 2020. But we had that with a growing economy, without bank runs. The financial system was a lot more stable. And this is the racket. It's all about sensibilities. Trump is extreme in his rhetoric, and then look at Biden. His economic plans stink. Inflation is going up. Food inflation is going through the roof. Democrats and Biden have begged other countries for oil and gas, as they do everything possible to make it difficult to obtain oil and gas within the United States of America. So what's the point? You want to protect this country, but not the environment of other countries, huh? Oh, that's very morally superior. You flood 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves into the country because your energy policies were horrendous to begin with. And then Biden was sued by oil and gas associations. Oil and gas in 14 states. So you have a situation where a debt limits, we have to stop spending primarily on never-ending military conflict. So close to $100 billion in Europe. These are things that Democrats see. The way Democrats work, their mentality, or I should say a great many liberal Democrats will say, well, we have money for war. Yeah, you vote for it. You have the Lincoln Project as part of the Democratic Party. They pontificate about imperialism, the working class, and all these socialist talking points, or communist talking, whatever you want to call them. And it's the biggest capitalist racket of all time, but they're not very good at it. What they're good at is politics, which is not capitalism. It's just this sinister form of graft and bribery. And so Bernie Sanders gets cheated. $200 million go to buy the Steele dossier against Trump, And he's still back at the same racket. Oh, the working class. Like, well, people are doing worse under Biden, and we have to stop spending eventually. Give me your thoughts below. As much. Give me your thought. Not social safety nets, but you should also try to make it so that people don't have to rely on the social safety nets because the economy is working like it was under Trump with record low poverty. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. Thank you.